You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're tuned in to NightVision Radio, exposing the truth, one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Well, welcome indeed. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We have a great show planned for you, and we're going to get right into tonight's guest and tonight's subject matter. In just a moment, I want to make a couple of announcements. I hope your week has been going well as we sort of slide into the weekend here. I've been having a great week. My old best friend from back home, back in Oklahoma, is out visiting with me. So it's been really, really nice. It's so nice to have friends that you've had over decades. And I'm not going to say how many decades, because that's going to be telling off on both of us, and I don't think she'd appreciate it. But it's sure wonderful having my friend Myrna here visiting this week, and I hope she can stay a long time and come back soon. Anyhow, also, I wanted to remind everyone that I am taking inquiries on the trip to France in May. Right now, it looks like it's going to be around the second week. I believe it's the 10th of May that it would be starting a one-week tour to Southwest France, to my favorite area of the entire world. And this trip will probably be a relatively small group. And it really wasn't a planned tour this time necessarily, although I'm always trying to get back over there. But this was sort of sprung up organically with people asking me questions about how, when I was going back, if I was going back this spring. And I'd certainly like to, because I'd love to meet with our good friend, Mr. Henry Lincoln, who'll be with us on the tour, who, as a lot of you listeners know, especially the ones that know me very well, he's sort of the grand master of the entire Da Vinci Code mystery, with his BBC Chronicle documentaries from the late 60s and 70s to the publication of the highly controversial book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, in 1982, and his subsequent books about that very region called The Holy Place and Key to the Sacred Pattern and others. And he's got work that's coming out shortly. He'll be with us, as well as best-selling author Tim Wallace-Murphy, who's an expert on the Knights Templar and also around the mysteries surrounding that region of Southwest France, as well as, and tentatively scheduled, we have Gloria Amendola, who most of you know if you listen to the show very long, because she's a recurring guest and one of our very, very dear friends, an amazing speaker, an amazing teacher, and an author. So we are going to have a wonderful, wonderful time exploring those areas of the Languedoc of Southwest France. I mean, it's just an amazing place. If you want more information about it, please just send me a message through Inception or through my Facebook page, and be sure and friend me on Facebook. Friend me pretty soon, because I think I only have a couple hundred more slots left before they start blocking me. I think you have a 5,000 friend limit or something like that. So I'd love to hear from you about the show, about any suggestions that you might have for guests and for subjects. I always love to hear that, and a lot of us tonight. So please let me hear from you either about the show about anything, that we're interested in our subject area, and about the trip to France. So tonight, I want to thank my friend Patricia Baker for recommending my guest tonight, because I've been reading up on him and on his work, and it's pretty interesting, and it's pretty exciting, and a little bit scary, because we're getting into the world of suppressed medicine, suppressed healing, suppressed cures of diseases and conditions, and relief to people who are sick and suffering. So tonight, my guest is Tom Paladino. He's a researcher into this area, and he has some technology which is doing quite some amazing things. But he is no stranger to this idea of suppression of information. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
I'm so glad you're here. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, we've heard lots of times where, we've heard there's a cure for cancer, and then suddenly it's outlawed by the FDA or suppressed somehow. It's made illegal, and maybe some of those people end up going to another country and using their science or their technology. And your technology has to do with scalar energy. Am I correct?
That's correct. I work exclusively with scalar energy. That's right.
Now, for those of us lay people, and for those of us who don't know very much about that, which I'm definitely including myself in there, could you tell us a little bit about what scalar energy is? What are scalar waves?
Sure. There are two energies in the universe. Everybody's familiar with electricity and magnetism. That's the electromagnetic spectrum. I work with another energy that is known as scalar energy. Everybody's familiar with it. It's known as, synonymous terms are chi, prana, zero-point energy. Some people call it intuition. Some people term it as Christ consciousness or the life force energy. Well, in a nutshell, there's two energies in the universe, and I choose to work and experiment with scalar energy on account of the fact that scalar energy is much more versatile and offers much greater promise than that of electricity.
Now, when people start getting into these, well, I don't guess it's a new kind of energy. It's just something that we've only been hearing about recently.
Right.
But when this new information starts getting out, and this is going back in time, I mean, we're talking about, look at Nikola Tesla, how much trouble he had getting his technology out. Didn't they burn his lab and steal his files and that sort of thing? Now, in this area, is there a suppression of this type of information?
Absolutely. And it's very discreet, yet it's been very effective. As you mentioned, Nikola Tesla, the great inventor, the great scientist, Tesla, the latter part of his work, was working with scalar energy, and he was quite successful. And frankly, I believe he intimidated the powers that be at that time. J.P. Morgan at one time had an interest in Tesla's work, but when it came to J.P. Morgan's attention that Tesla was about to introduce this relatively inexpensive source of energy, scalar energy, J.P. Morgan pulled his funding, all support for Tesla. Well, subsequent to that...
didn't he say something famously like, I can't put a meter on that?
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
in other words, I can't make any money from it, so I'm not going to support it.
Exactly. Tesla was a humanitarian, the great soul that he was, a really fine gentleman. And J.P. Morgan, simply one of the puppets of the Rothschild family, simply would not have that. J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds were threatened by Tesla and by his work with scalar energy. So after it came to the attention of J.P. Morgan that Tesla was about to introduce to the world an improved way of powering the world, power generation for the world, that would essentially supplant coal and electricity and oil, well, J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds would have nothing to do with that. So they parted their ways, and from that point forward, J.P. Morgan became a thorn in Tesla's side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, is there, then Tesla technology that's related to what you're doing? And is there, or some that was suppressed at that time?
Well, let me say this, and the evidence bears this out. Upon Nikola Tesla's death, the U.S. government seized all of his notes and his inventions in his New York City apartment and laboratory. And by and large, all of those notes, all of those inventions have never seen daylight. Well, for what reason? What's the point? If Tesla had so much to offer mankind, and if his inventions were just so awe-inspiring, why haven't these notes, why haven't these inventions been released? Well, it's obvious that the U.S. government has not wanted to release this incredible, if you will, wealth of information. And to this day, we see suppression of technology that would advance mankind, but the powers that be, and some governments are part of the problem, are not willing to step forward and to announce this, are if anything, are serving to suppress this technology, all to the detriment of the people. This is meant to keep the power elite in control. It's as simple as that. And sadly, the power elite has their henchmen, and sometimes the henchmen are government officials who stand in the way of progress. All of this is done for the selfish gain of the elite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's big pharmaceuticals, and it's the medical business, I guess, in general. And is it insurance companies? Is it, and how does the FDA come in? Is it because of the lobbyists?
Let's just say we'd have to be very specific with each consideration. So I won't make a blanket statement. I will say that there are some people in big business, in government, that are serving to suppress this technology. That's been proven throughout the centuries. For whatever reason, ultimately it's a matter of money and power. That's the motivation here. In a nutshell, the powers that be do not want to upset the apple cart. There are monopolies. Frankly, if Nikola Tesla's technology would have been embraced and utilized, then this incredible man with his incredible technology and the prodigious work that Tesla achieved throughout his lifetime, many of Tesla's inventions would have put an end to the monopolies in the world today. And that, frankly, would have just upset the revenue stream of the power elite once again. And again, there has been suppression, and in many cases there has been out and outright interference by this power elite and their working mechanism. It's a shame, but and you have to look at it in the perspective, it's the people who are suffering. Obviously, the power elite is not suffering. They are living a life of luxury, whereas the people are the ones who suffer on account of the fact that what we could have, in many ways, heaven on earth, but that is being held back. And it's being held back, once again, by this power elite. They will not allow this technology to be released.
Now, you hear also about this theory or this idea that you hear when you hear people talking about, some of the conspiracy theories about the Illuminati and about secret societies and things like that, speaking of a culling of the population. And is it possible that could also be a part of it? Or do you feel like it's more just as simple as the bottom line?
Well, I think there's many motivating factors. Yes, the bottom line is one of the main motivating factors, but I've heard that too, and I believe there's a great deal of truth to that. Sadly, the elite would like to do away with many people on the face of the planet, and I've heard it's been theorized that if the elite could eliminate people, it would be easier to control the world. The elite is obviously, the Illuminati is not interested in the common man. The Illuminati is interested in world domination. And it's much more difficult to dominate a world with 7.2 billion people. It's much easier to dominate a world with only maybe 1 billion people. Well, I've heard that there are plans to create wars and insurrection. There's obviously wars and insurrections that are serving to destabilize the world and reduce the world population. There are man-made viruses that are serving to reduce the world population. Well, this has been called the culture of death. And appropriately, we see that culture of death being promulgated by the Illuminati. Yes, there is an attempt to depopulate the world. It's very subtle. It takes many subtle forms. But this evil group of men, this cabal, is not working in our best interest. To the contrary, I think many of them are quite evil. I would go as far as to say that some of them are outright Satanists. So that is my take on it. I have a great deal of supporting evidence to substantiate such a claim.
You know, I mean, we've heard those kinds of claims over the years. And, you know, I can remember, you know, like when I first heard those ideas thinking, oh, that just sounds crazy.
Right.
But the more you know and the more you see and the more sort of, I guess it was psychopathy, it seems like, that's involved, or sociopathy, the complete uncaring and non-empathy for other people, you begin to think, gosh, maybe there is something like that. It's just pure evil they're tapping into, maybe. Yeah. And it sounds very weird. But you said you've seen some evidence to that effect. Could you share any of that, or give an idea of what you mean by that?
Sure. In many ways, my research has dovetailed from the research of Dr. Galen Hieronymus. Dr. Hieronymus was one of the prominent scalar energy researchers back in the 50s and 60s. And he was approached by the U.S. government. Actually, the U.S. government conducted various experiments with Dr. Hieronymus. They were interested in scalar energy research back then. Well, and I got this straight from Dr. Hieronymus' wife, Sarah Hieronymus. Although the government had a keen interest in scalar energy, they never advanced it with Galen Hieronymus. In many ways, they simply took a look at his inventions. They considered what he was saying, but they never served to help advance it for the common people. And to the contrary, all of this technology has been hidden from mankind. It has been wrapped away, if you will, and held closely in the environs of big business and government. I have never seen any government or any business or any university really step forward and say, yes, we're going to in earnest promote scalar energy research. We're going to look at this other energy that Nikola Tesla worked with so fluently, and we're going to establish a working platform. Now, this is just incredible. If Tesla was so successful with scalar energy, and other researchers like Hieronymus and Morey developed functioning scalar energy instruments, and I'll go on to further their argument, Galen Hieronymus achieved a U.S. patent in 1949 for a scalar energy instrument. Well, it's in the patent office. Well, why hasn't this been promulgated? Why has this been suppressed? Why have these three men, Tesla, Hieronymus, and Morey, why have their inventions, their functioning scalar energy instruments, never seen the light of day? Well, it's obvious. It's being suppressed. It's not being promoted as it should be. To the contrary, there are powers that be that in a subtle fashion are preventing the dissemination of this information.
Is scalar energy in any way related to the term directed energy? When we're hearing a lot about free energy and directed energy.
I don't know how to define directed energy. Let's put a...
Okay, let's just put it this way. We know that our government has directed energy weapons. Uh-huh. Is it the same science? Is it the same energy? Or is it used in an obviously very different way than what you're doing? But is that the same thing?
Let me say this. It's believed that the U.S. government and other governments have functioning scalar energy instruments. Would I doubt that? No. In no way would I doubt that. Why? Well, these governments, especially our government, has had a head start. Again, our U.S. government has seized the patents, I should say, not the patents, but the paperwork, the documents, as well as the inventions of Nikola Tesla upon his death. Well, those inventions that Tesla had in his laboratory in New York City have never seen the light of day. And I'm sure in many ways they've been either back-engineered or at least the U.S. government that seized those inventions has a working understanding of what Tesla was doing. So to answer the question, I believe there are scalar energy instruments in the world. I don't know how adroitly the government is able to work with these scalar energy instruments, but that is the unfair advantage that we're seeing. It is the elite that is benefiting from this technology. You're not going to hear about this in a newspaper article. The common man is not being fed this information. It is indeed suppressed.
Well, one of the reasons that I was asking about, was it the same thing as I am. I also work in television, and I worked on the last season of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. And in that series, we did an episode on directed energy. And when we were producing that and we were calling people to get information and to get interviews and that sort of thing, researching the whole episode, we got a late night call, or the producer of that particular episode got a late night call from someone who, an ex-military guy, and I'm not going to name him, but it's actually in the piece if you want to look it up on YouTube, but I'm not going to name him. But he called up and he warned her, to stop doing this episode. If you do this episode, somebody will die.
Right.
And so the producer quit the next day. Uh-huh. So who did they give the episode to? Me. Thank you very much. So I went ahead and I produced it, and I scheduled an interview with Dr. Fred Bell with Jesse. And so we flew Dr. Bell up to Minneapolis, and he did the interview with Jesse, and the next day in his hotel room he died. And it could have been absolute coincidence, but I do know that in Dr. Bell's book that I have here in my library, he talks about scalar energy and how the government was working on that. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if they're, that's what I was saying. I was wondering, is directed energy scalar energy, or maybe there are different forms of directed energy? I don't know. But that was just something really, really weird that happened. And of course, I felt horrible about it because I was the producer. I was the one who contacted Dr. Bell and arranged all his interview and his flight and everything. And the next day, I got a call from his secretary, a voicemail saying Dr. Bell collapsed in Minneapolis and he has died. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted. But
yeah, I can't speak per se to that point, but it's rather obvious. Let's look at the nature of scalar energy. Scalar energy originates from our sun, the stars of the universe. It is a fundamental force in nature. Actually, all energy initiates as scalar energy in the center of our stars. Scalar energy will degrade, will convert into electricity and magnetism. So what is scalar energy? It really is the primary, the initial energy of the universe. As such, it's the perfect energy of the universe, whereas electricity and magnetism experience entropy, some type of resistance, and that leads to decay, to death, once again, to entropy. So what is being suppressed? It is the ultimate form of energy. It is perpetual energy. That is, a standing scalar wave will not attenuate. It will not weaken over time or distance. It's the perfect form of energy. And many scientists and many people understand that. We understand that there is another type of energy. However, once again, it is not being promulgated. To the contrary, it's being ignored, and in some cases, it's being actively suppressed. Well, I'm going to change that, and I will, on my terms and with God's help, I'm going to introduce scalar energy to the world. It does exist. It has great potential. Frankly, scalar energy has so many applications, thousands upon thousands of applications, and it is much superior to that of electricity or other types of energy generation. Frankly, scalar energy will set mankind free. It will serve to liberate the human race.
Well, I can see how, if we were allowed to use it for our oh goodness, I don't know what that was, for our all the wonderful applications it could be used for, it could certainly be a world changer. And we're going to, now, have you run into personally any problems? And then right after the break, we're going to go to break in about 4 minutes or more like 3. And then we're going to hopefully get right into your technology, what you're doing with it, what it does, and how people can avail themselves of it and learn more about it. Sure. But before we go to the break, have you had any incidences where you felt like, oh, I've got to keep this under wraps? I mean, it's kind of seems like it's kind of risky coming on radio shows and talking about it.
No, I'm not afraid to do that. I've got God on my side. I know for a fact that the Illuminati knows what I'm doing. It's become rather apparent to them. I don't hide this, and I have had contact before, in particular with an agent of the Illuminati who's made it very clear that the Illuminati is aware as to what I'm doing. In no way does that dissuade me from continuing on as to my mission. I'm going to introduce scalar energy to mankind. I realize that there's a great deal of evil within this group of international bankers, but in many ways God will triumph, and we will see that scalar energy will essentially, once again, liberate mankind. Scalar energy will do away with the cartel, with the monopolies that the Illuminati has created. So ultimately, scalar energy will serve to defeat the Illuminati.
Well, that would be wonderful. But, we talked about, well, I'm going to get into this after the break. I think it's a good time to take a little break. And we'll be back in just about, I would say like 3 minutes or so with more with Tom Paladino, with suppressed medicine, and more on scalar energy. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Everyone, Lori and Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to NightVision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Welcome back. You're listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett, and my guest tonight is Tom Paladino. He's talking about his research into new technologies regarding medicine, and we've been talking about the suppression of those same types of technologies over the years, technologies that could help the whole world, all human beings with their sicknesses, illnesses, conditions. And for some reason, which I think it might be a big old dollar sign, it's not getting out there to us. But there are people like Tom that are working their darndest to get this information to us, and also the technology to those that really need it. So let's get into the upside of it a little bit. We've talked about sort of the dark side of trying to do this technology, but let's talk about what the technology is and what it really does. Sure. Now, you're working with some type of machine.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And is it something that you invented?
Yes, it is. They are.
All right.
They're functioning scalar energy instruments. I can easily control. I can easily broadcast scalar energy. They are instruments, I should say. I have more than one. Instruments that allow me to master this energy, allow me to not only create a standing wave, but to control it and to broadcast it anywhere I want, to pinpoint it anywhere in the world. So that is my accomplishment to date. Much of my work should be given tribute to Galen Hieronymus, the American pioneer in scalar energy research. I met the widow of Galen Hieronymus, and in many ways, Sarah Hieronymus took me under her wing, and Sarah Hieronymus shared with me the notes of her husband. I was able to read the notes of Galen Hieronymus, and subsequently I was able to purchase some scalar energy instruments from the Hieronymus family. All of that served as, if you will, a launching pad for my scalar energy research. I didn't have to start at the basement floor, so to speak.
But how did you start? I mean, what was it? What was your trigger? What was it? Something to do with your current work?
Well, as a youngster, I studied Tesla, and I knew that Tesla was just a genius, and he was able to achieve feats that to this day have not been able to. Nobody's been able to duplicate. So Tesla was the genius par excellence, if you will. With that, I started to study scalar energy as a youngster. Although I didn't understand it, I still was intrigued by it. Well, lo and behold, I was fortunate enough to meet the widow, Sarah Hieronymus, who survived her late great husband, Galen Hieronymus, who once again was an early pioneer in scalar energy research. And this man, Galen Hieronymus, has not been given his proper consideration by the general public, was indeed a genius in his own right, and what he achieved with scalar energy to this day has only been glimpsed at. He had functioning scalar energy instruments, and as such, he developed this control over scalar energy that in many ways has served to benefit my experimentation, my work. I frankly would not be where I am today had it not been from the head start that I received from Sarah and Galen Hieronymus.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank goodness for them. Now, so you bought some equipment, and then did you alter that equipment, or?
Yes, I've perfected it over the years. Over the past 25 years, I've perfected this equipment, and I've developed an understanding of how scalar energy works. It's taken some time. I've developed my expertise. I've developed my technique, if you will. And to this point, I could say that I do have a firm understanding as to how scalar energy works, how it operates, and my instruments then become, if you will, a very powerful, a potent force, if you will. I have functioning scalar energy instruments, and I know how to control the energy, and I can do incredible things with scalar energy today.
Now, I think I heard you say before that you can direct that energy, and I guess that would be directed energy, toward any point in the world.
That's right.
How does that work when you're, someone's approached you and says, I have this condition, sure. How do you help them?
I always treat people remotely by way of their photograph. A scalar energy instrument works upon the information that's attached to any photograph. For instance, I live in the United States. I live in Florida. If I wanted to treat somebody with scalar energy in Europe, all I would need would be a photograph of that person. A scalar energy instrument will send a signal to Europe. And all of this is done by this intelligence, by this holographic universe that we live in. So to give you an analogy, if a satellite can send a signal from the United States to Europe, I can do the same thing with my scalar energy instrument. I can send a signal from the United States to Europe. And all I need as a means of identification and as a means of recognition is a photograph. I treat people remotely, and I do so exclusively by their photograph.
So I wouldn't have to give you my coordinates.
That's correct. That's correct.
But how does it find you? How does the it must have something to do with you.
No. Scalar energy is a matrix. It's an intelligence system. It is an information system. If you look at the scalar energy universe, so to speak, it's a hologram, and everything is interconnected. Now, if a satellite can find a cell phone tower or a car radio, then a scalar energy instrument can find, likewise, an object or a person. A photograph of a person serves as the identification for a scalar energy instrument to seek and find that person. So any scalar energy instrument is not only a broadcast device, but it's also an identifying, a detection device. You can actually pinpoint exactly where a person or an object is anywhere in the world.
That's mind-blowing.
Yes, it is.
It really is. So
now consider this. If you have a cell phone in New York City and you call a friend in Los Angeles, that cell phone signal will find your friend. In other words, the cell phone signal will travel from New York City to L.A. Obviously, there's satellite transmission in between, but nevertheless, two cell phones can find one another. Well, that's common. We realize that. That's an accepted scientific principle. Well, we can do the same thing with scalar energy. Scalar energy can find anybody in the universe, frankly, and all you need is a photograph.
Wow. Somebody in the chat room is asking, is it a digital signal?
It's not a digital signal. And the reason being, scalar energy is not electricity. It's not the electromagnetic spectrum. So we have to have a different vocabulary. We have to have a different way of looking at energy, a different way of looking at light. In particular, in a scalar energy environment, everything is interconnected. It's concatenated. There is quantum entanglement with every particle, with every object in the universe. As such, the entire universe, if it's a hologram, is really one point. Now, what I've discovered with scalar energy transmission, when I treat people, it's an instantaneous velocity. In other words, I treat people instantaneously. Why? Because the connection already exists. There is no point 1 and point 2. There is no point A and point B. There's only one point. Once you enter into this dimension, everything is interconnected. Hence, you have instantaneous communication anywhere in the universe.
So, if everything is connected, how does it pinpoint the one spot? Like, for instance, if you're trying to work on someone who has HIV,
Sure.
and they're connected to everything else in the universe, how does it track them down?
Sure. A photograph provides the intelligence, provides the instructions for a scalar energy instrument to make a connection specific to that person. So consider this. You could have a photograph of 10 people, and if you submitted a photograph with 10 people, my scalar energy instrument would instantaneously communicate with those 10 people because their light code, their signature is found on one photograph. Or if you just want to treat one person at a time, a scalar energy instrument will make a connection, a one-on-one connection with just one person in a photograph. Now, typically on any given day, I can easily treat 50 or 100,000 people by way of scalar energy. And my scalar energy instrument will find each person and treat each person. No matter how many photographs I have of people, a scalar energy instrument will easily, routinely find each person and treat each person with scalar energy.
And since you're doing this remotely and using a photograph and not laying hands on a person, is that the way that this technology will be saved? Because saved from suppression?
Why will this be saved from suppression? Well, first and foremost, God is with me and God is protecting me. Secondly, I believe the people will see the merit of this. This is the problem that Nikola Tesla faced. He didn't have any groundswell of support. People did not understand what Tesla was doing. He was obviously way ahead of his time. And he never garnered the support of the people simply because he didn't have the internet. He didn't have a radio platform. Ultimately, the Rothschilds and their cabal simply suppressed his work so much that nobody would pay attention to Nikola Tesla. Obviously, all of the media outlets that were controlled by the cabal at that time would not provide any press time, any type of coverage of Tesla. So Tesla was, if you will, relegated to the corner of the room, and he was dismissed. And that's why Tesla's work today is only coming to light, because we have a free internet. You're not going to get this from the New York Times or any other establishment newspaper. You're not going to get this from the major networks. They are controlled by the cabal.
Well, sure, yeah. But, okay, so how long have you been actually using this to help people?
I've been working with scalar energy instruments since 1993, so it's going on approximately 22, 23 years.
Wow.
That's
pretty amazing.
over that course of time, I've perfected the technique to the point now where I can easily, with my scalar energy instruments, I can easily disassemble germs. Any type of virus or bacterium, I'm able to deconstruct or disassemble the molecular structure of any pathogen.
And so, so you like pathogens, any virus or any bacteria. And so that's why it would work on something like HIV.
Exactly.
Because that's obviously a virus.
Exactly. I've had great success, again, with any type of pathogen, including the HIV virus. I have documentation that proves that many of the people that I've treated for HIV, who are HIV positive, have had subsequently DNA tests, and those DNA tests have come back without any detectable viral load. Month after month, these PCR tests, these viral load tests, show a complete absence of any genetic material of the HIV virus. Why? Well, scalar energy is a unique energy that is capable of disassembling the molecular structure of germs, including the HIV virus. So what I'm announcing to the general public is that scalar energy can eradicate any virus, including the HIV virus.
So, and what if the person had something else? Like right now in Los Angeles, I think there's been some recent deaths in a particular hospital here where there's this new antibiotic-resistant infection.
Enterobacteria, yeah.
Yes.
Enterobacteria.
They're calling it the CRE.
Right, the CRE.
And so would this be, since it seems to be resisting medications, would this be something that would work on that?
That's correct. It will. It will. Why? Well, the CRE, this antibiotic-resistant bacteria, I'm able to treat that out. And the reason I can do that, this Enterobacteria is able to be disassembled because I can broadcast the reverse phase angle of CRE. This Enterobacteria can be disassembled by way of this primal force in nature. Again, scalar energy is a primal force. It's a fundamental force in nature. I control nature. I control physical matter. In specific, I have mastery over germs, including the CRE-resistant bacterium that has particularly plagued one hospital in Los Angeles. I am able to treat out, disassemble the molecular structure of germs. As such, I have mastery over the pathogenic kingdom.
Wow. Well, that's a large section of illness and disease in the world, isn't it?
Yes. It is
because you're talking about things like, Ebola.
Sure. Exactly. If I can disassemble bacteria, viruses, protozoan, etc., I essentially am opening the door to realize the cure or prevention of thousands of pathogenic diseases.
Wow. Now, can you share like some examples of some of the cases that you've worked on and some of the results that you've had?
Sure. In the past month, a very kind soul has provided me with diagnostic tests for the herpes simplex virus. An individual that had been suffering from herpes infection for at least 25, 30 years had been diagnosed as carrying the herpes simplex virus 2, genital herpes. Well, after my skill energy treatments, this individual submitted diagnostic test results. A PCR test, or a polymerase chain reaction test, was conducted, and the result was no detectable viral load. For the first time in 25, 30 years, these DNA tests, these polymerase chain reaction tests, are rendering no detectable viral load whatsoever, all leading me to the conclusion that, yes, the treatment that I have developed is successful, that, yes, I am able to disassemble the herpes simplex virus 2, as well as other viruses, as well as other bacteria and fungi. Scalar energy allows me to have control over pathogens, over germs. I now have mastery over pathogens.
Well, and, what about some of the people that you've worked on that have experienced the effects of the technology and have, either reversed their damage or stopped the virus, or, as you said, tests show that there's no more evidence of the virus in their systems? I mean, they must be absolutely over the moon about this.
They're ecstatic. They're ecstatic. And many of them express their thanks. And they say to me that continue on with your research. This is meaningful. This is the only treatment modality that has been able to eradicate these germs from my body. I'll mention this. 3 weeks ago, I had a radio interview, and a gentleman called up, and he announced to me that he was free from HIV. I had been treating him for a few months, and unbeknownst to me, he called up on a radio program, and he told me that after years of being infected with the HIV virus, there is no detectable viral load anymore. This gentleman likewise had polymerase chain reaction tests, a number of them conducted. And there's no presence, there is no detectable viral load anymore. And he, in his own words, and I'll quote, it's a miracle. He believes he's been freed of this infection. These testimonials are not of my doing. I'm not coercing people to say these things. I'm not coaching people to say these things. These are unilateral expressions. And indeed, I agree. This gentleman who called up on this radio show, I believe he no longer has the HIV virus in his body. I believe scalar energy treatments have disassembled the HIV virus.
Wow. Now, what about other types of things, like autoimmune diseases? Or what if you're just, you don't really have a disease or a chronic condition?
Right.
Is there something that scalar energy has a benefit for everyone, health-wise?
I would say so. Again,
what about aging?
Aging, yes. Well, here's my take on it.
That's a particular interest to me.
Good for you. This is my take on it. If we lived in a perfect scalar energy force field in which there was no electricity or magnetism, a perfect scalar energy dimension is perpetual life. It is immortality. Why? Scalar energy is perpetual. If you live within this perpetual energy, you cannot decay. You cannot age. There is no death. There is no disease. Frankly, I think that defines heaven. Heaven is a place of abundant light. Well, what type of light is in heaven? It's scalar energy. There's no electricity in heaven. You only find scalar light, scalar energy in heaven. And that's what makes this condition of ultimate happiness in heaven. It's a scalar energy environment. And people cannot die. People have immortality in heaven. Why? They live in the light of God, which is this divine light, which is scalar energy, perpetual energy.
Well, you've got people popping in the chat room. Someone's asking, Carol is asking about Lorraine is asking about fibromyalgia, and Cruzy's asking about arthritis.
Sure. Presently, I've perfected my technique whereby I can eradicate over 60,000 potential species of germs, pathogens. I call it a pathogenic cleanse by way of scalar energy. Well, one of the pathogens that I can eradicate, that I can disassemble, is the Epstein-Barr virus. The Epstein-Barr virus has been implicated as to be one of the causes, perhaps, of chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. Now, to this day, these terms define us, and in many ways, we really haven't been able to find the ultimate cause of fibromyalgia. Well, I can't say that I understand it either. That remains an open-ended question. Nobody has answered that, at least not sufficiently. Fibromyalgia might be caused by a pathogen, and in so doing, well, if I can treat out over 60,000 potential species of germs, viruses, bacteria, fungi, in many ways I can at least diminish, mitigate, palliate the deleterious effects of fibromyalgia. Now, some people who've been on my program have told me that their fibromyalgia, that this pain, this pain within their muscles, within their very bone marrow, if you will, this musculoskeletal pain is in many ways diminished. Why? In part, at least, because I can treat out, because I can disassemble so many opportunistic pathogens that are responsible for chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Again, the Epstein-Barr virus has been implicated, so is the cytomegalovirus. It is hard to say definitively which pathogen or which series of pathogens produces this condition. Suffice to say, scalar energy is going to prove to be our greatest ally because we can easily transmute and eradicate those germs.
Wow. I want to remind people that they can get information about your technology, about even booking an appointment for scalar sessions with Tom. And your website is selfhealgo.com. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Great. I want to make sure that people have that. And I'm putting that into the chat room right now so that people can go there and look at it directly while we're talking. And it might give them some more information or trigger some more questions.
Sure.
But so we'll talk about, in the last half hour of the show, let's talk about how people can avail themselves of your sessions, and also any other events that you might have coming up where people can see you, hear you speak, or that sort of thing that you'd like to tell us about. Sure. And but while we have just about 3 minutes till the break, now you were talking about with things like fibromyalgia. I think there are certain types of things like that we really haven't identified exactly what the causes are. So there could be like sort of collateral benefit from the Scalar website. We don't know yet because we don't know what it is that's making us sick.
Right, right.
So,
and that's an astute observation at your point. And that's why I have this wholesale approach, if you will. I have the ability to treat out, and I do so with each session, over 60,000 species of germs. Now, per se, I don't diagnose. I don't have that ability right now to diagnose. So I take a very convenient and, if you will, a universal approach to wellness. I treat for all 60,000 plus pathogens. And you might only have 10 in your body, but at least I'll treat out those 10 out of the 60,000 within my reach. That's the beauty of scalar energy. It again gives us command. It again gives us mastery over the pathogenic kingdom.
So if I had some kind of a bacterial infection, or staph infection, something like that, and someone else has HIV or some sort of herpetic virus, you would treat me in exactly the same way that you would treat them.
Precisely. Everybody's treated identically, and that way I am assured that no matter what pathogen you're suffering from, if it all falls under that umbrella of 60,000 species of germs that I can treat out, then indeed I'll be able to eradicate those germs.
So it's really, just treating the whole person.
Yes, thank you. And you can do that with scalar energy because it's friendly energy. Remember, scalar energy is sunlight. It is starlight. It's not electrical in nature. There's two different energies. Scalar energy is not electricity. Scalar energy is really the life force of the universe.
Right. And, somebody had asked a question a moment ago about scalar energy, and it reminded me, what you just said. That said, is it the same energy that drives our mind and our consciousness?
Yes, that's very astute. Congratulations.
Wow, that was Cruzy out of the chat room who was asking that question.
Beautiful, beautiful. People are getting it. Thank you. Thinking is only made possible by scalar energy. You've heard the term enlightenment. Well, the pun is intended, I guess, because the only way you can become enlightened is with the light of scalar energy. Scalar energy is the fundament that allows us to think. Without scalar energy, scalar light, you cannot think, you cannot memorize, you cannot calculate. Scalar energy is the animating principle of all cognitive processes.
Oh, I think I'm beginning to get it. A little bit closer to it anyway, and thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break, and hang in there with us. We're talking to Tom Paladino. We're talking about scalar energy and suppressed technologies and cures. So please hang in there, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to NightVision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Hey, we're back again. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're down in the last half hour of the show. We're talking with Tom Paladino and his scalar energy treatments that he's providing using an invention of his own with the help of the Hieronymuses. I don't want to leave them out. Right. And some equipment that he bought from them, altered it, made it his own, and he's using it to help people with. Now, we were just before the break, we had a really cool question. from Cruzy in the chat room about, is scalar energy the same energy that drives our mind and consciousness? And that sort of triggered, as I was telling you on the break, my memory about reading something on your website about scalar energy being otherwise known as chi or prana. And you said, absolutely, that's what it is. And that does make a lot of sense, that it is the very chi, the very energy of life. It's what drives everything. And it also, I wanted to ask you, you said we're scalar beings.
Yes.
And it seems like, would it be that if we use scalar technology on ourselves, what we're really doing, rather than altering ourselves, we're sort of returning to the right natural state, the right natural chi? Is that a possibility?
Yes, thank you. That's well put.
So it's just corrective, basically.
Exactly. Scalar energy is corrective. God intended us really to live in this perfect scalar energy paradigm. Once again, I believe heaven is a place of perfected scalar energy. There is no electricity in heaven. So if you want to be perfect, you live in a scalar energy environment. That is unitive, that is perfection. Now, if we look at our mind, the human mind, the brain is a scalar energy generator. Every time we think, we're broadcasting scalar energy. How does our mind work? How is it that we develop a creative thought, imagination? How is it that we can calculate? How is deduction possible? All of that is a function of scalar energy. The human heart, in which we express love, emotion, what is that? Emotion is a broadcast of scalar energy. All of this is a form of intelligence. When we think, obviously, that's intelligence. When we feel, that is also some type of intelligence. Well, what is that intelligence? It is scalar energy intelligence. So scalar energy, this intelligence of the universe, is responsible for all activity. All cognitive activity it owes its existence to scalar energy. All emotional feelings, all emotional empathy, compassion, mercy, all of that is rooted in scalar energy. It's all intelligence, scalar energy intelligence.
Carol in the chat room is asking if you feel there's a connection between the scalar energy and the work being done at the CERN laboratories on the so-called God particle. Mm-hmm. Is there a relationship there?
Yes, there is. Tesla considered the following. There's ether, first of all. Ether is that perfect medium. Ether allows energy to propagate. And ether is crucial to our understanding of the universe. Everything propagates through ether. And as such, ether is, if you will, a tetrahedron. It serves as the fundament, it serves as the smallest particle, if you will, in the universe. And then scalar energy propagates through that medium. You need first a medium, ether, for the energy, the scalar energy, to move through, to travel through. Well, Tesla knew that, and I agree with him. So what scientists are looking for today is that essence. Ether is necessary. Ether is the medium of the sky. And ether will allow us to finally understand that this medium, this subtle medium, is crucial to understanding how all energy is generated and propagated and moves throughout the universe.
And how does that figure into the absolute technology that you're using? I'm not sure how to actually formulate my question, but it seems like it's the biggest subject, and then you're able to like bring it down to a pinpoint.
Yes, you're right. And that's what we can do with scalar energy. Scalar energy can allow us, can actually serve to pinpoint any object in the universe. It's that specific. So with scalar energy, we have the means working through the ether to identify any object in the universe, deliver that energy to any object in the universe, and as such, we have, again, mastery over the physical universe.
Mm. You reminded me of something. I was you were talking about heaven, and you believe that it's perfect, a perfect scalar environment, and you think about things that you hear when people have had near-death experiences, and they have had a glimpse of something of heaven, or that they feel that they have. And I was talking with a friend today, and we were sharing. She had suffered a recent passing in her family, and she was going through some grief, and we were sharing stories. And I was talking about the time when I was actually by the side of a friend when he passed over, and just before he did, he sat up in bed, and he was very ill. He was actually dying of AIDS, and couldn't really speak because he was just didn't have enough breath to actually speak. But just before he passed, he sat up and he called his sister's name, and his sister happened to have passed away the year before. And he said, "Oh, Brenda, the flowers are so beautiful." And you always hear when people talking about, when they've had a glimpse of heaven, or they feel that they talk about the brilliant colors. Yeah. And the brilliance, and they say, obviously flowers on earth are absolutely gorgeous, but they say it's indescribable because of the perfection that they see. Yeah. Is that because of the scalar environment, or do you...
Exactly. When we go to heaven, you'll see colors that you could never even imagine.
Yes.
Our world is muted in comparison to what we will experience in heaven. Everything is filled with scalar energy. We are light beings in heaven. Hence, there's no shadow. There's no darkness. It is pure truth. It is perfection. It is, once again, that immortal state. Many people have said that when they have a near-death experience, they see a vortex, if you will. They go through the tunnel, and the tunnel is white light. Well, what is that? It's a scalar energy vortex. Scalar energy moves like a double helix. It is, some people might call it a tornado. It is a vortex. And when you're going through that white light, you're going through the white light of the vortex. Now, this all starts to make sense. And hence you enter into eternity. A scalar energy dimension is a perfect dimension. You are immortal. You cannot die if you live in a perfect scalar energy dimension.
Mm. So as a you said you have Christian beliefs. As a Christian who believes in heaven, and we know that when we die, our physical body dies, and then we go to heaven. What is it of us that's living? So we're not a living organism anymore, but we're just part of that pure energy.
We have eternal life, and if you consider it in this vein, the Creator, there is a God, I believe. The Creator is above creation. And the Creator, one of his attributes is scalar energy. And once you're within this scalar energy dimension, you are linked, you are united with the God, the Creator. Hence, you become immortal. It's the unifying principle that we all are looking for. Scalar energy will serve to unify the human race. And we can frankly have heaven on earth. If we start working with scalar energy in this world, it essentially will be heaven on earth.
Mm. And so Wow. And so and I guess that means that we would never die.
That's correct.
So then that's why it would be heaven on earth, because it would be eternal.
Yes. It would be perfect happiness. We would have incredible intelligence. I've said this before. Some people have incredible memory. In particular, there are savants. If you remember the movie Rain Man, there was actually an actual person. Lawrence Kim Peake is his name.
I actually have met Kim Peake. I used to produce Ripley's Believe It or Not, and we did a piece on him. And he was very sweet, and as was his dad, who was his caretaker. But yes, he absolutely was unbelievable with his memory.
Yes. Lawrence Kim Peake was a gentleman who lived in Utah, the state of Utah. Mm-hmm. The movie Rain Man is in many ways modeled after his illustrious career as a savant. Yes, it is said that Rain Man, Lawrence Kim Peake, during his lifetime could memorize a book from cover to cover. And I've read before where he's probably memorized 12,000 volumes. He memorized in his lifetime 12,000 books. Mm. And the way you have that perfection is by way of scalar energy. It's a gift. It's a gift from God. A scalar energy mind, a scalar energy brain, so to speak, cannot forget. You have perfect memory. How can anybody memorize a book, let alone 12,000 books? Lawrence Kim Peake, his mind, his brain could interface with the scalar energy matrix, if you will, with this holographic universe. And one of the gifts that Lawrence Kim Peake had by virtue of scalar energy was that he could memorize that with ease. That's how Lawrence Kim Peake memorized 12,000 books.
Mm. Yeah, I remember one of the things that we did in the segment that we did on him was you could give him a zip code to any town, anywhere, and it could be the tiniest town in the world. Yeah. And he would tell you what the location was. Yeah. He could give you the population of that place. He could tell you anything about it. It was just quite amazing. But yet, okay, I hear what you're saying. He was able to tap into that scalar energy, but yet, he had a lot of problems, in dealing with just regular society and taking care of himself, and he couldn't work and things like that. And his dad was his caretaker until his dad's passing. But so he was able, just with his mind, then is what you're saying, to tap into the scalar, but he still had the condition of autism.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and I will acknowledge that. Obviously, he lacked obviously that gift of normal, perhaps human discourse. He was to some people aloof. Some people would call it perhaps Asperger's syndrome, or perhaps he was autistic. That's a sliding rule. Nevertheless, he was unique, and he did have, let's say, social dysfunction.
Yes. Yeah, he was very childlike. Yes. Very childlike when you meet him. Just as sort of guileless and innocent, and as he could possibly be, and but yet he had this tremendous mind, just like nothing I've ever seen. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I would agree.
I apologize for that phone sound. I don't know if that's on your end, Tom, or if that's something else, or we're having some interference from outside somewhere, but we keep hearing this.
I think we're having some interference from the powers that be, because I've never heard that sound before. But we'll continue. If I'm not mistaken, Lawrence Kim Peake also was capable of calendar date recognition. He could actually pick out a day of the week that a particular event took place on. I don't know if you recall that.
I believe so. That does sound very familiar.
Yeah. In other words, if you asked him what day of the week was the Declaration of Independence signed, He could tell you whether it was Monday or Tuesday or Thursday. He could tell you the day of the week. Now, all of that speaks to this holographic universe. Rain Man, Lawrence Kim Peake, he had actually a calendar, if you will, downloaded in his mind. And he could actually pinpoint any day of the week that a particular date could be attributed to. Incredible. Incredible. All of this speaks to the power of scalar energy as this infinite intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. It truly, truly does. Now, can you give us any other examples of how, scalar energy comes into play with different people? Like Kim Peake's, he obviously is one example, but are there other ways that people show that they're picking up on the scalar energy or in tune with the scalar energy? I mean, how could a person know? Is there a way that we can direct ourselves to it?
Yes, I would say people do that all day long. Anytime you pray, that's a broadcast of scalar energy. Any type of prayer, you're able to broadcast scalar energy. And as such, that not only helps you, but that helps the world. Other examples of scalar energy, once again, are thinking or emotion. So all of us have this incredible ability to control scalar energy, to broadcast scalar energy anywhere in the world. Our bodies, every cell is held together by way of scalar energy. Well, you take that into consideration, that just speaks to this virtue of scalar energy, how important scalar energy is, and sadly, we just don't get it. We don't realize that it's all around us, that scalar energy is being used every moment of our lives. This is the suppression. It's right in front of us. We live in a sea of scalar energy. But if you listen to modern-day science does not consider scalar energy. It's not even given a footnote of consideration. However, all the sun of our solar system, the stars are constantly producing scalar energy. It's the primary energy that drives the cosmos. And that is the suppression. It's right in front of us, but it's not being acknowledged. Well, let's change that. Let's make it apparent.
Yeah, and how can we do that?
We can do that by really serving to give this energy its due. Do some research on scalar energy. Look into it. Support any group that's trying to resurrect Nikola Tesla's work. If we were to follow in Tesla's footsteps, the world would change in many ways. Tesla had many inventions that had we implemented those inventions, we would not have the energy crisis that we have today. Well, can you imagine a world without an energy crisis? It would frankly be paradise on earth. We would not have wars. We would not have insurrection. We would not have to face scarcity. This is where we're going. Scalar energy is superabundant. It's an infinite supply of energy. Well, if we can realize that, then we can overcome, which is the first obstacle of any economic model, scarcity. That's what scalar energy will do. It will do an end to the monopolies. It will do an end to any type of shortage. We won't have to worry about supply. Scalar energy is, again, superabundant. So this is a new way of living, and that's what I'm looking at. This is what I really want to inculcate in people. I want them to address this and ultimately embrace scalar energy. It will come down to the people. The people have to demand scalar energy, and if they do that, then the world will change, and we will have this incredible energy at our beck and call. And scalar energy will set us free. Scalar energy will indeed liberate mankind. That is the day that I'm looking for.
And you think that we do have this technology does exist, and it probably is being used in certain ways. I remember I had a conversation. Actually, it was during when I was working on conspiracy theory. I was talking with Dr. Stephen Greer, and we were talking about free energy and directed energy, that sort of thing. And he said, do you really, really think that we don't have something better than these clunky rocket, fueled engines to carry our spacecraft out?
Yes.
And he said, but just think about it. If people knew that we had that sort of spacecraft, then they would also know that that very same energy should be available to power our homes, to power our cars, to power the trains, to run the world. And if they allowed that knowledge out that we already have this for one application, then obviously people would be up in arms if we didn't use it for everything else. And it made a lot of sense when he said that.
Of course. And that's the suppression. And for those of you who are new to this, just, so to speak, connect the dots. Nikola Tesla had incredible inventions. Nikola Tesla easily demonstrated that you could take scalar energy and broadcast it around the world. Tesla, in many ways, perfected wireless transmission of energy. In other words, you don't need telephone lines, you don't need substations, you don't need satellites. Scalar energy can broadcast scalar energy anywhere in the world, and in so doing, there's no loss of signal. You have an infinite supply of energy. Hence, you don't need a grid system. The grid system is obsolete. You don't need transformers. You don't need cable, per se. Well, what would that do to the existing paradigm? What would that do to the economic model today? That technology would quickly make obsolete so many technologies. And that's where the suppression comes in.
Wow. We've got just a few minutes left in the show, so I really do want to let people know how they can reach you and maybe make an appointment with you or find out more about your technology.
Sure. My website is selfhealgo.com. If you have any questions, simply write me a letter or call in. We have an 800 number. The staff will answer your phone call. Again, the whole point is to get this information out there. I have hundreds of articles that I've written about scalar energy and my discoveries on the website. First and foremost, educate yourself. Be comfortable. You have to have an understanding, a footing as to what scalar energy is. And if you feel comfortable, then I would say sign up for some treatments. I will indeed serve to improve your health in some measure.
Oh, that's great. And you can also go on the website, selfhealgo.com, and find out more information about the scalar energy and the treatments that Tom is doing. And also, I believe there's how to make an appointment. There's a pricing scale there and all the information that you might need. And if you have any more, you can always email Tom and ask. Right?
Thank you. Yes, exactly. We're open to anybody's suggestions. I'm able to treat people for 30 consecutive days with scalar energy. I can treat people as an individual, or people can sign up as a family. Your health will improve. I'm able to, again, disassemble germs. I'm able to assemble nutrients in the body. This is universal health care.
Right. It sounds great, Tom. I'm definitely going to look into it more. I think that, we owe it to ourselves to look into all these new things that we're hearing about that may just help ourselves. And if enough of us get interested in it, one of these days, these things will reach critical mass and they'll just have to let us have these things available to us as they should be.
Yes.
But I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been great having you, and I hope you'll agree sometime to come back.
I'd love it.
Let us know how your work is doing, and I'm definitely going to check it out myself. So let's
thank you, René.
Let's hope that you do come back sometime soon. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Everyone have a good night and a great weekend. Take care, everybody.